So, about 2 months ago, there was a lot of excitement over the incoming Terry update. And with the Terry update, a lot of people were hoping or coping for balance changes alongside the DLC characters. And the night before the update came out, I made this prediction that despite everyone talking about how Rashid or Bison or Akuma or Cammy are the characters that like everyone is finding most difficult right now, none of them would get touched, and Zangief would face the full brunt of Capcom's nerf hammer. And the next morning, I woke up and saw this. This was the patch notes for the update. It did indeed contain balance changes. And you may notice down the sidebar here, Cammy is grayed out. Cammy got no changes in this balance update. Ken, another character, got no changes in this balance update. Akuma did get changes, but they were just bug fixes. No balance changes. And finally, M. Bison, a long-ass paragraph about how they think Scissors is too strong, followed by a completely incomprehensible decision to decrease the pushback, but also decrease Bison's hurtbox, making almost no difference overall. So none of those characters that I just listed really changed at all. However, Zangief. Zangief received genuinely noteworthy nerfs to both his forward medium kick, which went back to being unsafe on block, and not always plus after a drive rush, and his headbutt as a combo tool now scales significantly harder. These are actual, like, character-affecting nerfs. I'm not saying they made, like, Geef weak or anything, but in this update, he was by far the most nerfed character in the game. So, today I'm going to once again reactivate my powers of foresight and tell you which characters I think are going to get nerfed and which are going to get buffed next season. And if you're thinking, isn't this basically just going to be a tier list? Like, aren't you just going to say strong characters will get nerfed and weak characters will get buffed? Lol, LeMayo. It sounds like you've never experienced the Capcom Balance Patch before, buddy. Capcom doesn't work like that. Strong characters in this series sometimes get no nerfs, and weak characters sometimes get no buffs. And I'm going to explain why and try and get into the Capcom mindset as we go. But first, before we get started, we're going to take a short word from this video's sponsor, Tenno Media, and their upcoming Black Friday sale.
Take your passion with you wherever you are. On the job, on the go, on the grind, or wherever the next challenge awaits. Head to merch.tenno.gg to get your favorite FGC apparel on sale for Black Friday this November 29th to December 2nd. Sign up for our newsletter for early access.
Okay, so here we go. I have split this up into 6 categories for my predictions. We got big buffs likely, very minor buffs expected, character likely to be unchanged, probably gets a slap on the wrist, and prepare to learn a new character, bucko. Start with Geef. I guess because we did just mention Geef, and I'm gonna go straight to putting Geef into prepare to learn a new character, bucko territory, because the number one thing that you need to know about predicting balance patches for this game is not tier lists. It's not, you know, what you think of the character's perspective, how strong you think a character is. It's nothing to do with that. If you are not Japanese, your opinion on balance does not matter one single iota. So whether, like, screaming on Twitter about your character being strong or weak outside of Japan, you might as well be pissing into the ocean, I'm afraid. So this is kind of where we're going from here. So Zangief is a character which is extremely highly rated in Japan. Even after the nerfs that I just described, I think a lot of people are still putting him top 5. Nemo hates this character with a passion that I almost respect. I don't think he's completely doomed, but I do expect Geef to get pretty heavily nerfed. And in that same vein, I'm also going to put 2 more characters here in prepare to learn a new character, bucko. Number 1 is this character here, Ed. I don't think I've ever seen the Japanese community unify against a character as hard as they are against Ed right now. Almost every single Japanese player thinks Ed is top 1. Some are even saying he's like ascended top 1 in a tier by himself. And there's tons of people putting in work with this character as well, like Lashar, is like currently, you know, the person to beat in Japan. All the Japanese players think that like Lashar is like unstoppable right now. Momochi is a demon with Ed. Fudo is a demon with Ed. Ebihara, Tachikawa. So there is a million Ed players running loose in Japan, and that's only in Japan, like not even including like the amazing Ed players worldwide. Like we've got Ending Walker here in the UK. I think Chris CCH just qualified for Capcom Cup with Ed a few days ago. Right now, this character, in my opinion, is the #1 biggest target for nerfs in the next balance patch. And it's surprising as well, because Ed, it's been a weird development this season with Ed, because he got almost nothing in the Season 2 balance patch. In some ways, he was actually nerfed. So it's kind of surprising that he's sort of developed over time and grown and grown and grown, and now people are saying that he's like potentially top 1 material. It's kind of crazy. I'm not sure if I agree personally. I still don't see the vision for top 1 Ed, but based on what I'm seeing from Japan, I think this character is going to get shot. And similar to Ed, there is another character, which I think this is not Japan exclusive, but I think this character is also extremely likely to get shot, and it is this guy right here. Tips Fedora, Bison. I think this is not surprising. I think Bison is like way too prevalent right now. Every single top 8 we see Bisons. He's massively overexposed. His representation is so high, and it's just so easy to like pick him up and get him going. I think that's part of the issue, is that it's not just that Bison is good, it's also that to pick him up and play him at a high level is faster than like any character I have seen in a long time. He's dominating Japanese tournaments. He's all over Street Fighter League. Practically everyone in Japan has a pocket Bison. I think this character is going to get shot, probably. Now, I guess what we're going to do next, actually, I'm going to jump to the opposite end of the spectrum and go to big buffs likely. And this might be surprising, because you're probably expecting me to put some of the worst characters in the game up here, but I'm not going to do that, because I have a theory here. In fact, I'm going to change courses slightly. This is E-Honda. I'm going to go to Honda next, because I want to tie this in. E-Honda, most people think he's either the worst character in the game, or at the very least, optimistically, one of the weaker characters in the game. I think he's bottom 1 right now, potentially either him or Marissa, in my opinion. You would expect, given how weak everyone thinks this character is, that I would put him in here, but I'm going to put him here. Maybe even here, honestly. And I'm also going to tie this into a second character. I'm going to put him in Unchanged, actually. There are 2 characters that you might be surprised that I put in Unchanged. It's going to be Honda and Lily. Both of these characters are not performing especially well in tournaments and are not especially highly rated. But these characters both have a problem, which is that they are designed in a way which makes them impossible to buff without a redesign. And I'm not expecting a redesign for these characters. So Honda is a scrub killer, right? We all know that by now. Honda is like the worst character to fight if you're new to this game, because all you need to do is just spam headbutt and spam butt slam, and you can probably like destroy 95% of players that play this game casually. Maybe even higher than that. And Lily kind of has the same problem, especially in Modern. There is a lot of Modern Lilies around. Both these characters have very simple designs that are extremely oppressive at low to mid level, and even getting up to high level. So I think these characters are the types that, although they're not necessarily strong, they're not even approaching top tier, I don't think Capcom wants to buff them very much. So they're either going to be Unchanged, I think, or very slightly buffed, but I would not expect them to get much. Where do we go next? I saw Akuma. Let's do Akuma next. Akuma is the best character in the game. Don't at me. I'm still making that point. I'm going to put him here. Akuma never, ever, ever suffers consequences. This character is the ultimate privileged character in every Street Fighter game. I think, to some degree, I think Capcom likes having Akuma be top tier. It's almost his archetype at this point. I would expect in the next update, Akuma gets a slap on the wrist. Maybe they'll tone down a little bit of his frame data, make a few of his hitboxes a little bit bigger. But I would still expect him to be a monster. It's because this is what happened in Street Fighter V, right? Pretty much every single season of Street Fighter V, there was like 5 or 6 Akuma nerfs, and he went from being top 5 to top 5, and that happened like 6 seasons in a row. It wasn't until like the absolute final season that he fell out of top tier. So Akuma is like perpetual top tier. Every season he gets a slap on the wrist, but he's never allowed to be bad. Having Akuma be bad is like bad for branding. Or something. I don't know. I guess from here, we're just going to go in order. Luke, I think Luke's going to get buffed. Luke is the poster character of this game. I think Capcom is investing big in this guy being the main character of Street Fighter going forward. He was obviously an issue in Season 1. He's fallen off a bit in Season 2. He's actually still really good. I think he's in a really good spot right now. I don't actually think he needs any changes, but I would expect, based on his sort of main character status, that his face is on the cover, that he's going to get some buffs. Jamie. Jamie is another character that is a contender for one of the weakest in the game, but I don't think he's going to get that much. I'm not going to put him here. I'm going to put him here. Jamie's kind of an interesting one because in every balance patch that we've had so far, Jamie gets like 300 pages of improvements, but then you look at it with like a fine-toothed comb and you realize that 300 pages of Jamie buffs translates to not that much. So I'm expecting that to happen again. I'm expecting so many changes to like his 800 different drink level Rekka variants and stuff, but I don't think the sum total effect of that is going to be much of a change. Buffs that seem good on paper, but then after a period of time, people realize that it's actually not that big of a deal. Manon. It pains me to say this, but I think she's going to get huge buffs. I'm still at war with the Manon community on this one. I maintain this character is really underrated, and IDOM even agrees with me, so suck on that one. But the Manon community has done a great job of constructing an image of this character as being like bottom one trash when she's absolutely not. And I think she's very likely to get lots of buffs. I'm concerned about this character going forward, but we'll see. I think Kimberly is also going to get lots of buffs. Kimberly's one of those characters where every balance patch so far, I've underrated her changes. Like, I was a little bit disappointed with her Season 2 changes, and they ended up actually being pretty decent. And then recently, in the mini balance patch that I mentioned earlier, the one with the Geef nerfs, they made like one change to her, which is that her spray cans don't scale as hard anymore. And I kind of just brushed that off. I was like, that doesn't really matter. Spray, like, that's just a slight damage increase, not a big deal. But actually, that ended up being, I think, a really good buff. So I'm expecting Kimberly to be like the opposite of Jamie, where her patch notes is just like 3 changes in like half a paragraph. But actually, they end up being really consequential. Like, change number 1, EX Tatsu is invincible again, like it was in the beta. Change number, you know, that kind of thing. Like, not a lot of text, but pretty damn effective changes. I'm expecting for Kimberly. Marissa. I'm gonna put Marissa here. Marissa is kind of a less severe, I think, case of Honda and Lily syndrome, which is that she hits so goddamn hard that I think Capcom is probably going to be scared of overdoing it. I imagine Capcom are terrified of overdoing it with this character and ending up with like an Abigail situation where you're doing like 70% off a sneeze. I'm not expecting Marissa to get much, but I do think she'll get buffs. JP, I'm also expecting to get minor buffs. I think JP and Luke are probably about the same. I think both of these characters are actually in a really good spot right now, especially after the fact that they've restored this guy's crouch heavy punch anti-air. They reverted his anti-air back to its Season 1 variant, so now his anti-air is actually really damn good again. But I still think he's going to get more. I don't think he needs it. If I had my way, he'd be here, but I'm expecting Capcom to improve this guy. Jury is a strange one where, like, for 6 months straight, no Jury player will do anything, and I start to think maybe Jury isn't that good, and then suddenly, like, 6 Juries will all put in an amazing performance back to back, and I'm like, damn, this character is sick. It's like Uma. It's Uma syndrome. Uma just showed up and watched everyone at Capcom Cup, and I was like, damn, Jury's kind of cheap. A few months passed, and I was like, maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe it was just like a one-off. I'm gonna put Jury here. I think she's gonna get buffed. I'm not expecting much. Like at the end of Season 1, she also got buffed a little bit. I'm expecting that kind of thing again. Just a few little improvements, but nothing game-breaking. DJ. I've got to think about this from the Japan perspective, because I was gonna put DJ here. I think Japan has correctly realized that DJ is actually a lot better than we thought this season. He's not like top 5 material for sure, but I think he's like bottom end of top 10, that kind of area. And like I said, you got to pay attention to what Japan thinks, because their opinion is the only one that matters. So I'm gonna put DJ unchanged probably. Where do you guys think I'm gonna put Cammy on this list? Given that there are now more Cammies qualified for Capcom Cup than any other character, what do you guys think? I know where I'm gonna put this character. I don't think Cammy's gonna change. Unchanged. I'm gonna break with my own logic here. So you remember how about like a few minutes ago I was saying that you have to pay attention to what Japan thinks? There is a caveat to that, which is that if you're a blonde white girl, you get to ignore logic in the Street Fighter universe. And no character embodies that more than Cammy White. So it doesn't matter that most of Japan has this character in top 3. Most of the world has this character in top 3. It doesn't matter that there's about 1 trillion Cammies in Capcom Cup right now. I don't think she's going to change. I'm not expecting any Cammy movements to actually matter. Ryu. I am actually going to put Ryu up here. Perhaps surprisingly, I'm not sure. Ryu is really, really fucking good this season. But I'm still expecting him to get Giga buffed. I can just feel it. This one's one that I can't really explain with logic. I can just feel it in the air. I have this feeling. This is just my my spidey senses tingling. I think Ryu is going to get hella buffed, even though he's already extremely strong in the current season. I found a marvelous proof of Ryu's buffs, but it would not fit within the margin of this list. Anyway, Blanca. Blanca is probably going to be minor buffs, I think. He fell off a little bit. A lot of Blanca players dropped him, but I feel like that's more a product of like other characters. Cough, cough. This guy here just doing what he does better. Like Blanca is still good. He still has good buttons. Blanca-chan set play is still good. His level 2 is still really good. But he's seen a big decrease in usage, and I don't think Japan rates him particularly high, so I'm gonna stick him in very minor buffs. Guile is going straight without any hesitation into slap on the wrist territory. Japan rates this character very highly, but the thing about Guile is it's almost impossible to nerf him. His toolset is so simple and so straightforward. Like, he basically just operates off 2 special moves. He's Flash Kick and Sonic Boom Man. That's it. So it's very hard to actually meaningfully nerf Guile. So usually what they do is they'll just like tone down a couple of his normals, but fundamentally he's still Sonic Boom Man. Ken. So, Ken was tied with Luke, the most dominant character in Season 1. And then he received absolutely 0 nerfs of consequence. And then Season 2 is underway, and he is currently the 2nd most represented character at Capcom Cup again. So we've had 2 seasons of Ken domination. And as a result of that, I would have gone with Unchanged, but I'm going to be a slightly more pessimistic and go with Slap on the Wrist. I'm expecting... Here's what's going to happen. In fact, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen to Ken, right? Ken is going to get a couple of minor nerfs that make him a little bit more awkward to use. And 15 seconds after that happens, every single Ken player that you know is going to have a mental breakdown about how he's bottom 1 unplayable trash. And then, 3 months after that happens... Once people realize that Ken is actually still really good, they will still say he's unplayable trash and pretend that it never happened. It's the circle of life. It's the circle of Ken, yeah. He'll still be really good, and Ken players will be treating it like the sky is falling in, probably. Okay. Chun-Li is going to get minor buffs. I think this is easy to predict. A lot of Chun players dropped this character this season. I'm not quite sure why, but they did. I think she's pretty good now. I don't think she's that weak, but I think she is going to get a few buffs. The thing about Chun is that she... You know how I said earlier, like, Luke, and to a lesser extent Ryu, are kind of the face of Street Fighter 6? Chun is the female face of Street Fighter. Like, every single time there is a merch drop, it has Chun-Li. Every single time there is a collab with another game, it has Chun-Li. She is, like, one of those characters that is just, like, in everything. She's one of the faces of this series, so she usually wins balance patches on that basis. They like Chun-Li being strong because she's one of the most recognizable characters in the series for like branding purposes, I think. Dalsim is not very strong, but I don't think Capcom wants to make him that good either. I think Capcom are going to be very hesitant to overdo it, so I'm kind of trying to get into the Capcom mindset, and like, it's either going to be Unchanged or very minor. I'm going to go with Unchanged. I think he's kind of got Honda Lily syndrome, where making him significantly better would make fighting him in the lower ranks an absolute fucking nightmare. Rashid. Rashid's going to get a slap on the wrist, 100%. I mean, potentially even Unchanged. I'm going to go slap on the wrist. Rashid has Akuma syndrome, where in Street Fighter 5, every single season, this character would either stay unchanged or get a slap on the wrist and then be top 5 the next season. And it happened like 6 years in a row. Rashid and Akuma are like perpetual top 5 characters. And here's the thing, I'm actually going to go for a more specific read on this one, like I did with Ken. Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen to Rashid, okay? I can picture it now. Capcom is going to nerf his level 2 in a way that at first seems like it matters. Like they'll make it so that level 2 goes away if Rashid gets hit, for example. And for the first 3 days, it seems like that's a thing that's going to matter and make a difference and actually nerf Rashid. And then 2 weeks later, everyone's going to realize, wait a second, this level 2 is still completely busted, even if it goes away on hit. And he'll basically be back where we started. Aki. Aki is one that my opinion on has changed a bit, actually. When Season 2 first came out, I was like, damn, Aki's been massively buffed. I don't think she's going to change next season. Like, I was assuming she'd be here. But as time has passed, and I've been paying close attention to Japanese tier lists, Japan does not particularly rate Aki in the same way that other people do. Like, if I look at, like, the West, I consistently see Aki popping up in, like, the bottom end of top 5. But when I look at Japan, I consistently see her just outside of top 10. So I actually think Aki is kind of in a Chun situation. She's not that popular in Japan, and she's not really been getting the results this season because Aki players are scrubs, and couldn't be me. Imagine being an Aki player, lol bottom text. Yeah, I think she's going to get minor buffs next season. Probably not to the same extent that she did last season, but I think she will get improved. And finally, hang on, I'm going to create a new category here. This man's stocks are going to the fucking moon, invest now. Bam. I think Terry is going to win the next balance patch. I think this guy is going to get so many improvements, and I don't think he needs them. I want to make that clear. I think Terry is actually pretty good right now. I still stand by my statement that Terry is underrated. He's like high mid tier right now, but considering this is the first ever crossover character, and I think Capcom wants to like show SNK that they're putting the effort in, this man is meant to sell copies of the game as like the big like King of Fighters Fatal Fury crossover. I think this man is gonna get fucking 5 pages of life-changing improvements, and I am terrified of it, honestly. I think as a long-term investment, I think he might be one of the best picks in the game right now. Not this season. I don't recommend playing Terry right now, but as a long-term pick for buffs in future, I 1000% think you should be playing this character. If you play as Shoto, you should learn a Pocket Terry. It will not let you down. Yeah, invest in Terry stonks. Are you going to predict system mechanic changes? I mean, no, because I'd like to say, boy, it would be cool if Capcom removes throw loops and that kind of stuff, but I think I've accepted now in my heart of hearts that we're going to be in this vortex forever. If throw loops don't go away in the Season 3 update, I think that's the last hope we have, right? You're going to have to come to terms with it eventually. You're going to have to make your peace with that fact. If they're not gone in the next update, they're never going to go. So, I think you just have to learn to accept that at a certain point. Probably. We'll see. Anyway, this is just me wish casting. I guess I want to revisit this. When the Season 3 update comes out, what I'm going to do is, if I was correct about these predictions, I will be very smug and point it out. And if I was wrong about these predictions, I will simply not make a video about it, thus protecting me in both directions. We call that the content creator's gambit, folks. So, see you all in February for the inevitable smug follow-up, if it exists. But, yeah, I will see you guys all in the next video.